if you're not mastering converting your already warm leads, you have no hope of converting a cold lead. Don't even bother. It's a waste of money.
Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I am so excited today. We have a very special guest. She's actually one of my colleagues, another Profit First professional at the mastery level. Her name is Tara Newman, and Tara is actually the founder and CEO of the Bold Profit Academy. And the Bold Profit Academy, she teaches service-based business owners how to sell premium services and programs without dealing with that emotional stress of launching and worrying about ads and really just overwhelming social networking strategies and those funnels. She is actually a fellow podcast host. She has a podcast called The Bold Money Revolution, and she's been featured in publications like Money Magazine, GoTerra, Yahoo Finance, as well as Huffington Post, as well as other publications and podcasts. Tara has an interesting background. Her background is actually organizational psychology, and she's got a master's degree in that from Hofstra University. And she's got over 20 years of experience as a Profit First professional, as well as she actually has a advanced level certification called Reiki certification. And that's pretty neat. We can definitely talk to her about that, because it deals with energy, mindset, and strategy and bringing those three together. And today I'm excited because we're going to talk about lead generation. We're going to talk about lead generation in an economy where customers are afraid, right? Prospects are afraid. They're being told, there's a pending recession coming up and hold on to all your pennies. They're frightened of raising interest rates, and, suddenly that dollar doesn't stretch as far, but there's still sales that are happening. We still have people complaining that they can't fill orders because, they don't have people on board to fill orders. So there is major successes out there today. And Tara and I today are going to talk about how to increase your leads during this time. And first of all, I think it'd be pretty cool, Tara, to start talking about the Reiki certification, because I know we had a pretty cool conversation offline about how these really incorporate to affect our results. So if you can explain what that is, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, sure. So I'm really excited to be here today talking about not just lead generation, but high quality leads, because the two things that I hear most from small business owners is either I have no leads, lead flow is slow, or I have junk leads. The leads that I have, aren't buying, or they're giving me a lot of I can't afford. And so I really want to talk about high quality lead generation, because that makes your life so much easier. And we're going to focus on organic, so non-paid, because we don't always have the ability to control ads. We don't always have the money for ads. So I want everybody to know how they can be generating these high quality leads, even if they can't afford, or now's not the time for them, or they don't want to be running ads. And I look at everything through the lens of EMS, which is my framework: energy, mindset, and strategy. Energy first is always my jam. And I'm a certified Reiki practitioner. I found Reiki and energy healing when I was severely burned out. I'm chronic illness. And my naturopathic doctor was like, you should try this thing called Reiki. And I went and I gave it a shot and wound up doing an 18-month certification. And it comes in really handy because everything really is energy, even in your business.
Definitely. I was like, there's so many people that are like, I can't attract leads. And it's like, at the same time, you look at their face and they're like, well, it's not quite nice talking to you either. So maybe you need to kind of check what's going on in those forehead cracks right there and be approachable. So definitely it's all about, mindset and energy and what you're bringing into the table to attract the things that you want with that. It's definitely important with that. And I'm just curious, how did that help you with what you were dealing with physically?
It wound up being really successful. It allowed me to listen to my body more, to really tune in, to really kind of connect inward at a time where I felt very just drained, really drained. And it taught me how to kind of refill my own cup. And, when I talk about energy and when I teach energy in the Bold Profit Academy, I always say, when we feel good, good things happen. And so I really want everybody starting their sales process, their marketing, their lead gen, feeling good, because when you feel good, then good things happen. Instead of rushing into your day, right? Like your seat's on fire and like you get to your keyboard and you're hammering away. And I know that can be hard, especially as business owners, especially as parents, especially having a life going on, but just even taking a small moment, and it doesn't have to be meditation. It doesn't have to be yoga. You pick your thing that makes you feel good. And like some days it's lifting heavy weights. Some days it's listening to calming music. Some days it's, diffusing some essential oil because that's all I really have the energy for. But it's whatever I can do in the moment to shift myself into feeling good. Sometimes it's making the bed. It's decluttering or straightening up a room really fast, going for a walk. It could be anything like that. Whatever your thing is, just make sure you're doing it before you start your day.
I love that. I love how you said that it's about learning to listen to your body, because even as an entrepreneur, and particularly in sales, if you're going through this, muddle period where you're not generating leads, where you're not closing. And when you take that deep breath, and you look at yourself, we talked about it's the energy that you're bringing, right? You like attracts like, if you're bringing in like bad feelings or bad karma, you're going to get some bad karma, right?
Desperation.
Oh, yeah.
I need this. I need this sale. And I know that sometimes we really do. That's why it takes consistent training on a daily basis to unhook yourself from that kind of energy and even to realize it's there. So I'm not saying like you're never going to not feel that desperation or anxiety or money worry or overwhelm. I'm saying know that it's here. Know how you can connect to shifting that and feeling good. And then don't do anything, don't take strategic action from feeling that way. So there are some days that I just can't clear it. It doesn't matter how many walks I take around the block or how much essential oil I diffuse, right? And in that moment, I'm like, I am not selling today. I am not going to email. I'm not going on social media. I'm not putting this fear, this money worry, this desperation out in through my business into the people who I want to serve.
Yeah, definitely. And it's about listening to your body. And maybe, I was going to even say, Tara, maybe you're selling something you don't really want to do. It could even be that you're not excited about the offering. You're not excited about the fulfillment of the offer, or it's just not the right line of work for you. And so it really is important to do that deep work and listen to, why is my energy off sync here? And is this temporary? Is this permanent? Is this something that I can change there with that? And that definitely affects your lead attraction.
Yeah. And it's not about bypassing it, because personally, I ask my clients, I'm like, just come and vent, because when you vent, that's clearing the energy as well, is to vent your frustrations, to talk about the things that are really feeling hard or uncomfortable or misaligned, and let me listen to them, because I can probably give some perspective. We can create a process. Like frustration energy for me is like the best process documentation energy. It's like, this isn't working. We're not doing this anymore. Let's just create the new way and document it. And so I'm always like, don't bypass it. Let it out. Bring me your beast and let's get that shifted around for sure.
I love it. I love it. And so, now that we've talked about managing the energy, managing the mindset, and, building that support network, because that's extremely important, right? Because as entrepreneurs, we can't go vent to our team, right? Because that's not necessarily the energy we want to pass down. So that have that support network that's external of your company is really important, whether that's your spouse, whether that's a mastermind group, or working for an experienced coach like Tara, that's going to be something that's going to be extremely important, having that group that you can feel free to vent and release that negative energy and explore those thoughts and feelings. So let's talk about lead generation. Let's talk about lead generation and what are some ways that's working right now that you've seen in this strange dichotomy of super successful companies that can't do fulfillment because they don't have employees, and then people that are like, what just happened to the tap water? It just went dry.
Yeah. So let's first clarify. Let's talk about the problem. I have no leads, or lead flow is really slow. First, I want everybody to check in. Is that a feeling or is that a fact? Because your girl thought the same thing the other day. I was like, oh man, lead flow feels really slow. I don't know what's happening. And then I was like, let me check my dashboard. And I looked at my dashboard and I'm like, nope, I'm up 50% in new contacts generated over last year. And we're not even at the end of the year yet. So lead flow is not slow. It's better than last year. So I want everybody to check in and say, is this a feeling or is this a fact? Are you tracking and measuring your lead flow? And the way I like to do that is, first of all, it's not a lead until you have an email address or a phone number. Okay. So we have traffic, and we're going to talk about this. We have traffic, and that's like, cars on the highway. We don't know who they are. And once they start to get off the exit, that's when you're getting their email address or their phone number, and they become a lead. A lead becomes a prospect when they start a conversation with you. And then when there's a financial transaction, they become a buyer. So I just wanted to clarify traffic, lead, prospect, because sometimes this gets tripped up for us. Okay. So are you tracking the new email addresses that you've collected, new contacts? I don't care about unsubscribes. I don't, because they're self-selecting out. Clearly, they've identified or decided that you might not be a good fit for them, or they might be like, I follow her podcast and I follow her on social media anyway, so I don't need to be here on the email address. We don't know. It doesn't really matter. I just care about who you are talking to that has given you their email address. So are you tracking it? It's a very simple metric, right? So go check it out. So if you're like, I don't have any leads, go check, make sure.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I think that monkey on my shoulder, about, but you're right. There's nothing like looking at the reality and seeing what's going on for real.
Yeah. So definitely take a look and see what's happening there. What's likely happening is that you have leads, and I call these invisible leads. You have leads. They want to buy from you. They don't know how, or they have questions that they're afraid to ask, or they're giving you buying signals and you're missing them. So those are a lot of ways that we have leads that aren't turning into prospects. So what I suspect is happening is we want, in your audience, we want the leads we have to turn into prospects. We want them to start these conversations with us. And we want them to better be able to make a decision as to whether or not they want to buy from us. So I think that everybody needs to realize they have leads. You all have leads all around you. You have a network of people who are supporting you in some way. You have past clients. Word of mouth marketing counts. I need to say that because in the online space, people diminish word of mouth or referral marketing. And it only counts if you're found through a random hashtag or an ad. And it's somebody who is completely random to you. Then that counts as a lead. That's not true. And I know that Susanne's going to back me up when I say your most profitable revenue is going to come from the people around you through word of mouth and through referral marketing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's,
right?
The fact that they've been listening for a while, that they know that your product or service is amazing. They're going to want to get more, right? They've been following you wherever you've been writing letters or blogs or, coming on podcasts, and they want to learn more. They want to be in your sphere.
Yeah. So make sure that you're inviting them to conversations and that you're letting them know how they can work with you, or, being proactive in answering and handling any objections ahead of time. So there are 4 forces at work at any time with your leads. Your leads have progress that they want to make. They have an aspiration. They have tangible outcomes that they're looking to accomplish. They have hesitations about what it might look like to have that service done, to do that kind of work, to buy your product or service. And then they have habits. So I call that inertia, right? That's where they're on the fence, so to speak, because they have these hesitations and questions. For whatever reason, they don't feel comfortable asking. They don't know who to ask. They are really busy. How busy are we all, right? So they maybe, I should ask this question. And then they forget to ask the question because the kid interrupted. That happens to me all the time. And then there are habits that they may need to change or break or disrupt in order to have the outcome that they want. And that might be holding them back as well. So they might be fearing some change. So whenever we're having conversations with people, we want to be present to hey, what's that aspiration? I'm going to give an example. Where do you see yourself? What's that progress you're looking to make? And, what's that outcome you're looking to achieve? What might be holding you back? And what are you afraid might change if you make this progress? If you do nothing ever but ask those 4 questions any chance you get, that's all you need. Those are good market research questions. So those are good like networking questions. Those are good questions to ask on a sales call, right? And it really helps you understand the psychology of the buyer. So I'll give an example. This is one of my favorite ones. So I was thinking about buying my car off of lease. My car was coming off of lease. I was thinking like, I don't know, I'm getting tired of, I could be really cheap. And I'm like, I'm getting tired of these like constant payments. And I think I just want to own the car, but we're in the middle of this wild inflationary period. Car prices have never been higher. Like, is this the right time to buy a car? Should I buy my car off of lease? Like, should I buy one off of Carvana? Like, I don't know. And so I had all these questions that I needed answered in order to make a decision. A friend of mine said, you need to talk to my buddy. We'll call him Jim. You need to talk to my buddy, Jim. He deals with used cars. He's, maybe works for Carvana or something like that. I'm so embarrassed, but I never called Jim because I can't be bothered to call people. Like by the time I remember to call them, I don't know, does this happen to you, Susanne, where it's like, it's not an appropriate time to make a phone call, dang it. Like it's 7 a.m. or 10 p.m.
And life happens,
life happens,
busy,
Right. So this guy, Jim, has a lead and he has somebody who's interested in purchasing from him and he doesn't even know. And I'm overwhelmed with life and I'm not reaching out to Jim. And so there's progress that I want to make that he could be helping me with. So if Jim would have given his buddy a guide that said how to decide if now is the best time to buy a car. I'm looking to buy a car. What are my options? And he wrote like a couple of page PDF guide and gave it to his buddy and said, hey, listen, anytime on the side of the soccer field, you hear someone talking about buying a used car, I'd love for you to refer me, but send them this guide because I think it could be really helpful. So let's imagine that happened. And I get this, my buddy sends me this guide and I'm like, great, can do this at 2 a.m. while I'm up, hyperventilating about God knows what. I download the guide and Jim gets my email address. I'm now a lead. And about 20 minutes after I download this guide, what if Jim sent me an automated but personalized email that said, hey, Tara, I see that you downloaded my free guide about, is this the right time to be buying a used car? When are you thinking about making this purchase? Or do you lease or do you own a car? And starts that conversation with me, right? Then he can start having that conversation around my timeline, what progress I'm looking to make. He could be guiding me through the buying experience. What outcome am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for a certain price point, aren't I? I know, like, I want to, when you're buying a car, I know for me, I was like, well, I want to pay this much a month. I don't want my loan to be more than this many months. So there are clear outcomes here that he could be addressing and identifying. And he could say to me in this conversation, so what are your hesitations right now about buying a used car? And I'm like, gosh, well, like, am I going to get screwed because this is like the most expensive time to buy a car? I have this lease. Should I be buying this car off of lease? Right. And so there's a whole conversation that could have started that easily would have led me to working with him. So there are leads all around you right now who are looking to make progress on the thing that you provide a service for. We just need to ask better questions. We need to start conversations and we need to create those opportunities. For us as Profit First professionals, there's always a lot of talk around recession. As somebody who works primarily in this online business space, a lot of what I've been hearing is what's working isn't working anymore. What is working? Well, it's all working, but we have to create the opportunities for it to work. People during downturns in economy, there's always opportunity. People start businesses. Millionaires are made during these times. Why not you? Why not be more proactive? Because when you're selling a premium service, which I'm going to suspect a lot of your clients and your audience are, that requires a proactive sales strategy. That requires proactive lead generation. And starting with one, understanding that a lead is when you capture the email. So if there's no way for somebody to give you their email or their telephone number these days, then technically you don't know they exist. You're like Jim and you miss out. I did buy a car. I wound up buying my car off of lease. So, and even if I didn't buy a car from Jim, I would have been like, that was a really awesome experience. He was really helpful. Let me remember to send his guide to anybody who I know who might be asking this question. I probably would have shared it on social just because I would know that other people would have those questions. And so understanding that there are leads all around you, understanding that you need an email address, understanding that you need a way to capture that, understanding that you need to just simply start a conversation. We make it so weird. Like, I don't know if you're all like me, a big weirdo, but like we get so weird about just like, how simple was that email that he could have sent? Hi, I saw you downloaded my free guide. When are you thinking about purchasing a vehicle? Right? So simple.
Yeah.
We so overcomplicate it. And then I think, what becomes even more important is just making sure that people say always be selling. I'm like, always be qualifying. Always be qualifying your lead, because there's some math involved here. Just like there were some terms and definitions like traffic and lead and prospect and buyer, there's some numbers involved. So there are basic statistics that say 50 to 75% of the people who you have as leads will never buy from you. They're just not a right fit. So we want to wash them out as much as we can, or get the people who are a fit now to raise their hands so we don't waste our time talking to people who will never buy from us. We're really busy. That's exhausting. And I don't know, the more time I spend on the internet, the more time we have with social media, and I know your clients probably have their clients texting them, our bandwidth is fractured. And we don't need to be giving access to anybody for free or any more than we already do, right? So having that clarity around who is that right person. Anytime somebody comes to me and says they want to burn their business down, that's like a real popular one that I get. I just want to burn it down. It's weird. I had that moment the other day myself, but like, I just want to burn it down. I can tell you like 90% of the time, it has to do with who they are working with.
Interesting.
It's who. It's who. So getting really clear and granular on the who. And it doesn't have to be from a demographic standpoint, because I know some of us have done like these silly ideal client avatar exercises where it's like, my client shops at Nordstrom's and likes wearing Lululemon leggings. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about niching down and really nailing your niche in terms of what's the progress your folks are looking to make, and niching down around the problem set that they have, because they do have specific problems and they do have specific progress that they're looking to make. And you will find that if you ask those questions that I gave you earlier, you'll start to see patterns show up. And so we want to be able to identify that main piece of progress that they're looking to make, so we can be speaking to that more clearly. And then we can go, oh, here's an example. I work with some accountants and I talk about creating a differentiated marketing strategy, because when we come online, it's very noisy. And the advice that seems to be out there that's ubiquitous is mass marketing, volume selling. And that requires you to talk to everybody. But we're selling premium services. We don't have to do that level of volume to make a living. So we need to be really pointed and directed in our marketing, and we need to be speaking to a very specific person to cut through out all the other noise. So when I say to my accounting clients, like, what's the job that your clients need done? And they're like, we'll pay their taxes. And I'm like, well, is that the job you really do? Like, is that the job you want to do? I mean, I understand like H&R Block, you go, you pay taxes. Like if you need taxes paid, go to H&R Block. But if you want a tax strategy, if you want to have a tax strategy that saves you X amount of money, and you are a business owner in, like you, minority business enterprise, right? That's a very specific niche. And that's a really differentiated strategy. So you could probably filter people in and out fairly easily based on that set of identifiers and characteristics. So if you want higher quality leads and you want more of those high quality leads and you want to cut through the noise, how are you differentiated? And here's how I define differentiation. It comes from jobs to be done theory. How do you serve an underserved market? So in Suzanne's case, MBE, right? And what is the unmet need that they have. So they have a need, but it has not been satisfied by somebody else. And so like, where is that? And this works. I test this across, I think one of the things that Susanne and I really appreciate about each other is we work across various industries. I'm certainly not like a coach or consultant that only works with coaches or consultants. Like I work with manufacturing businesses and construction businesses, everything from startup to 60 million. It works in every industry to find that differentiated point of where you have an underserved market with an unmet need. And you don't have to actually go and do anything other than sit down with your existing clients and see, why did they pick you? You go ask them. I know that sometimes is awkward, but just go ask them, why me? So the first two questions I ask on any call are, what's happening right now that we're having a conversation? Because without urgency, there is no sale. So go find leads that have an urgent issue right now. 2, why me? Why are you picking me? And that should be able to give you some of those points of differentiation. So for me, a couple of things. I talk about you can be a millionaire without having $1 million business. And that's very different than the ubiquitous, like build a 7-8 figure business online. And I truly believe that. I do. I challenge growth. The other thing was for me, for the longest time, there's lots of ways that I could talk about what I do. I could talk about make more money, increase your sales, grow your business, increase your profitability. And when I actually did the market research and asked, why is the progress that you're looking to make important to you? And why? And why is that important to you? And why is that important to you? It always boiled down to them wanting to get paid. And then they're wanting to get paid like the expert that they are. Because if they went back and got a job in corporate, which no entrepreneur ever wants to do,
exactly,
they would be making a 6-figure salary. And we can easily, Susanne knows from Profit First, we can easily reverse engineer that to be the case. So really understand what progress they're looking to make and why they're looking to make that progress. It allows you to have better conversations. It allows you to identify buying signals. It allows you to have better follow-up in your sales process, because a lot of times you probably have leads, you just haven't followed up with them. There's it's a wild percent. I don't even remember, but it's like 70% of your sales come after the 4th follow-up or something wild like that, right? But it gives you things to talk about when you follow up, or it gives you questions that you could be asking when you follow up. So lead generation to me, like sales, is psychology. Why will people buy, and why will they buy right now? Because out of the, I said like 50 to 70% of your leads won't ever buy from you. With what's left over, 15% will buy now. That's what we call a short tail conversion. And then 85% will buy later, which is a long tail conversion, which is why things like nurture and follow through sequences are so important, because we want to keep connecting with people for when they're ready to buy. But if you can identify those points of urgency and why somebody would buy now opposed to later, you can start to convert some of those short tail leads much quicker. And one of my favorite ways, I'm just giving it all away here, Susanne, but one of my favorite ways to do that is think about how you buy. How do you purchase things? Susanne, what was the last thing you purchased? It was just Black Friday.
Oh, don't even ask what went in that bag.
Or like, what was like the last larger purchase or meaningful purchase you made? Like
probably my trip to Cancun for Thanksgiving, right?
Okay. Yeah. So your trip to Cancun, when you were sitting there going, oh, should I should I take the trip to Cancun? Should I not take the trip? We all have that moment where we
I didn't think about it that much, ticket was there and
you hesitate a little bit. Like, what was it? Like, what was the urgency for you to get on that plane and take that trip?
So for me, it was Susanne no wanting a cookie on Thanksgiving. It was an out.
All right. Yeah. You were like, I'm not doing this cooking on Thanksgiving. I need a break. I need to escape. I'm tired. And the aspiration was, I'm not cooking on Thanksgiving.
That was definitely the motivation.
Right? The motivation, the aspiration. Maybe there was something more there around creating some kind of memory with family. Did you go with your family?
Maybe they went.
Yeah. Maybe there was something more there, a little higher level aspirational around like spending Thanksgiving in Cancun with your family. Outcome being, I don't want to cook. right? Any hesitations or concerns?
No, not for me.
All right. You're pretty tired.
I was ready to go. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
cold in Texas, which is an odd phenomenon.
All right. And where did you go when you were like, I got this idea? Where did you go next? What did you do next?
So I actually, just like you said, I went back to the travel agency that I always book from, right?
What made you go back to the travel agency that you went with before?
I had used them about 4 months ago and they did a great job. And I figured, why not again?
They met your expectation. They helped you make the progress you were looking to make in that moment. And so then you went into the loyalty loop. So what happens after buyer? So somebody makes a transaction with you, they buy, and then something has to happen for them to be a customer, because I think a lot of us have had a financial transaction with a buyer, but like they never really felt like a customer. So something has to happen. So for me in my program, the Bold Profit Academy, you make the transaction, you are a buyer. When you complete the onboarding, you're a customer. When you give us a testimonial, when you refer somebody, when you buy something else from us, when you show up to a certain amount of calls, then I consider you a brand ambassador. You're like in it with us, right? And so you made this purchase, they delivered on what they said they were going to deliver, and you came back. You're now a customer. You're in that loyalty loop. Have you told people about this travel agency?
Yeah, I have.
All right. Why'd you tell them? Why'd you talk about them?
Because I wanted them to have the same great experience that I did.
And what made that experience so great?
The gift card that I got back, it was all inclusive. They had the car waiting for me as soon as we landed in the airport. I didn't have to get into a taxi and a driver that I didn't know. And the resort was amazing. So
they took a tired woman, tired business owner with a family who just needed to get away and not think about anything else, not make another decision. And they took all that weight of decision making off of your plate, and they got you safely from one location to another without any confusion. I'm sure in order to do this, communication was probably chef's kiss.
Yes. Weekly emails as that last month came rolling by.
Oh, so they were preparing you ahead of time.
Yeah.
So you didn't even have to really think about your prep.
No, I just
they really took a lot off your plate.
Pack my bag. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, so why would Susanne not now go and shout this from the rooftops, right? Because this is what it means when you have your best fit buyer. This is what it means when you have differentiated yourself in your market. Lead generation with your highest quality leads becomes effortless, but it requires planning, and it requires thought, and it requires iteration and measurement and tracking and some know-how to do that, right?
They definitely learned about the bumps in the road before they got me to go on a vacation with them.
Right. And think about how you buy, why you buy. When was the last time you referred service, a product? Why did you refer the service or product? And tune into back to energy. So if you are walking around a furniture store, and the person, because I don't know if they do this in Texas, but like they could be a little like they smell fresh blood in the water and they're like stalking you through the furniture store. Right?
Oh yeah, definitely. They're right at the door greeting you, and then they're there every 5 minutes.
Go to a higher end furniture store. There's less of that, right? So now we're talking about like buy premium, but like so if you go to a furniture
buy on the internet,
but we've all been there. Like you go to the furniture store and they are just hounding you around, right? Now, if you're really agitated by that, and if it's really pissing you off, tune in. But also, can you say to them, hey, listen, I totally get you're doing your job. I'm going to let you know when I'm ready to buy. Can you take control of that situation and give yourself that agency in when you're a buyer, so you can do that for your buyer when you're selling? Does someone selling to you make you feel icky? Why? Is it you? Do you not like being sold to? Because if you're an entrepreneur and don't like being sold to, we have a whole other ball of wax that we're going to need to deal with. That's not the energy you want to be bringing into your business. So when people tell me, I don't make any sales through email, and I'm like, okay, tell me about like how you consume your email. How do you like to what happens when somebody emails you with an offer? Oh, they're in my email box. They're clogging up my works. But I'm like, well, did you sign up for the email? Yes. Well, they send you many emails. I'm like, well, okay. So if we're super judgy pants about people selling through email and you want to make more sales through email, That energetically doesn't work. So
Sure.
really look at your buying experiences and check to see if you're in integrity. How many places have you gone and said, I can't afford that, 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 right? I mean, sometimes you can't afford it, right? But it's more likely that you don't want to make the trade-off to afford it, right? So instead of saying, I can't afford it, say, I'm not willing to make that trade-off. Or I can't afford that yet, but gosh, I can't wait until the day that I can, right? Because what kind of energy do you want coming into your business when you're making sales? Because that's your job as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur. Your role, your primary role is as a commissioned salesperson.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You have to be your best salesperson when you own a business.
Yeah.
Because
So
you have to teach, right? You have
yeah.
to lead.
Yeah. So I just want to recap, right? First, understand the difference between traffic, lead, prospect, buyer. Track your lead flow to make sure it is a fact and not a feeling. Otherwise, you're going to be overworking for no reason, solving problems you don't have. And then I want you to consider your differentiated strategy. How do you have an underserved market? How do they have an unmet need? I want you to consider how easy starting conversations can be. Did you know that's what I do? I can, when you're ready to address that, let me know and we can chat about it, right? Or when's your car? When are you looking to buy a car? Or, any kind of just conversational question that you can ask. Think like a buyer, right? Really consider how you purchase, how you make those buying decisions, because they will inform how you're going to sell. When have you had somebody start a conversation with you that led to a sale and you were just like, oh, this was the easiest thing ever? There is nothing more frustrating than wanting to give somebody money and them not selling to you.
So true. So
oh my
true.
God. And I'm going to give you an example because I don't want any of you to ever do this. So my daughter started softball in the spring. She is new to softball. She had been a soccer player for a decade. And she's very athletic. So we were very quickly looking to bring her up to speed and we were getting her private lessons. And this summer, we put a pool in last summer and I decided that we weren't going to send them to camp. So I had time on my hands and I had money because I was not sending them to camp. And I said to this local baseball, softball training place, I said, where she was already going and getting training, because they were somebody in my community who I adore, this family, and I wanted to support them. They do a great job. And so because I know her very well, I said to her, listen, I've got like thousands of dollars and all the time in the world. Create a training program for her. I will pay you to have somebody deliver it, a private program. And she was like, and I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like, I literally have money sitting because I didn't have to pay for camp. And I'm not sending her to camp. So we have all this time. Please help me fill the time because I might go crazy. Right. And she needs these skills. And this sounds like a perfect opportunity to just get her caught up. And she's like, And I was like, I want to give you my money.
It is the worst. It makes the sale take a whole lot longer. It's nothing worse than somebody using a lot of words.
Oh my gosh. And she
Like,
never
let me just
created the
sign here.
program. I mean, I'm talking thousands. I was like, I gave her my budget. I was a woman on a mission.
Craziness.
And I didn't get to spend it. And that felt like really uncomfortable for me in my body. So, pay attention to when people want to buy from you and when they're trying to start those conversations, and think about a time when a conversation has felt really good and enrolled you in something that you really needed and felt supported. I'm sure, Susanne, this has happened to you where you make an investment or something and like you immediately feel relief.
Yeah, definitely.
Like my problem is going to be solved. I won't even have to think about planning this trip. How excited were you to have your money taken?
I was excited about not defrosting at Target, that the little things.
Right. So really give those things some consideration and let them inform how you generate leads and how you start conversations and how you sell.
This was amazing tidbits, Tara. Oh my gosh. I feel like we just all got a major sales/lead generation training, and really about just being in observation of the energy around us, whether it's coming from our prospects or coming from ourselves, And so powerful, Tara. So powerful. What an amazing gift. I mean, a whole hour of juicy morsels. I feel like I just sat through a $5,000 class or something. So it's been absolutely amazing with that. Now, Tara, when things go wrong, because I know we're wrapping up on our hour, when things go wrong with lead generation, where is the most common area that you see go wrong with that? Is it people just not picking up the cues, or what is it that where things get missed?
This is a great question. And I think it goes back to like what we were talking about. One thing is let's identify our invisible leads and let's categorize those leads as hot or warm. You will always, I hear people who are like, I need to make money now. Even established businesses have the moment where they're like, oh gosh, I need some cash flow, or I want to take that trip. I have a goal. And how can I bring money in more quickly? Or you went through a slow period and you're like, oof, like I need to start picking up the pace here. I need to accelerate the revenue. And so the answer isn't new cold leads. And this is where business owners get this messed up every single time. They will give themselves a heart attack chasing new cold leads. Don't do it. Go to the leads you already have, that 85% who weren't ready to buy then, but might be ready to buy now. And so understand, if somebody has already purchased from you, Susanne and the travel agent, Suzanne's a hot lead. If this woman ever needs money, she should just call Susanne and be like, when are we booking your next trip? Or I have this amazing deal. But if I was her, I would have that noted in my CRM, and I would have my conversation with you would be, hey, Susanne, it's January. I know that you're about to be nose down in tax season. And by the time you pick your head up, you're going to wish you would have booked something sooner. Let's get that planned and on the books now, so you have something to look forward to. Right. And Susanne would be like, cool, where are we going? Find me a deal. Here's where I want to go.
Book me the next 5 years out. What are you talking about? The next
lead,
5 years
lead. Right. So where are your folks like Susanne? Where is there an urgent, relevant thing that needs to happen now? Always be connecting with people who have purchased with you in the past. They're the hottest. Then the warmest, where these are people who have been in conversation with you. Maybe it just hasn't been the right time. So I always ask people, why didn't you buy? Like, what stopped you from buying? And a lot of times it's just like, I was enrolled in another program. It's summertime and there was vacation going on, or I had this family thing happening. We can't control when people buy, but as the head salesperson, we should know and be tracking these conversations so we can set reminders to go, oh, follow up with so-and-so. They said they were done with that program in 6 months. Or follow up with Suzanne because, it's tax season and she's going to be super ready to peace out in late April.
And November. Definitely. It's about knowing your customer, knowing what they need, and
mistake,
your strategy about
going cold. Biggest mistake is going cold. If you're not mastering converting your already warm leads, you have no hope of converting a cold lead. Don't even bother. It's a waste of money.
So many juicy morsels there, Tara. So many juicy morsels. And I can see that too. I mean, it's people get busy and they don't follow up on leads. There have been times I've given people my business card, like a networking event, knowing that they're going to probably try to sell me. And I go, there's a 2% chance this person's really going to call me. And so, here's my business card. And by the way, the cell phone number is on it, and no call at all. And it's just a statistic, right? They get busy, they get in their head, they psych themselves out, and they just never make that first move that's necessary to make the close. So I can absolutely see that, Tara. So many juicy morsels. Now, Tara, obviously one of the questions that we love to ask here at the Profit Talk is, if you could leave our guests with one piece of advice. It can be personal, it can be business. And trust me, you have dropped like many, many money morsels for us. What would that piece of advice be?
Create your opportunities. Don't wait for them to come, especially now.
I love that. Create your own opportunities, guys. Stop blaming on the economy. Stop blaming it on the president or the ex-president. It's all about you and what you're doing the next day. So very, very powerful advice there. We are our own masters of our own destinies, as they say. And Tara, how can our listeners find you? How do we connect with you? How do we learn more about what you're teaching and what you're doing? And how do we work with you?
So the first place that anybody can go if they're struggling to set a revenue goal that gets them paid a six-figure salary, because that's really what I'm here to do, is help established experts get paid that six-figure salary they'd be making in their corporate traditional role, was none of us want to have that again, right? None of us want to go back. So if they want to reverse engineer that revenue goal, they can go to theboldleadershiprevolution.com/revenue, grab my revenue goal calculator. It basically does the profit first math for them in one easy little, step. They put in their monthly expenses and it tells them how much they need to bring home the bacon. And then I have a podcast, the Bold Money Revolution podcast, and it's on all the podcast players. And I'd be delighted to have new listeners.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara. That's awesome. And what we're going to do for you guys that are driving or walking and getting your exercise out here out in the snow, for you guys up north, is I'm going to actually drop Tara's information in the show notes. You'll be able to click on her link for our podcast, to connect with her, to learn more about her within that show notes. So Tara, thank you so much for dropping so many juicy morsels of information and really knowledge and things to think about for such a powerful discussion here that we had today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Susanne.
Thanks, Tara. See you next time.